Chief Product Officer of Jumping Minds, to share his views on this topic.
Hello, sir.
Hi everyone.
Hello,
Hello,
sir.
sir.
Yes, give me a minute. I'll just share my screen. I have prepared a small deck.
Sure, sir.
Okay, sir.
Cool. Do let me know if you can see the screen as well.
It is visible.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Perfect. Thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk about what we're doing here at Jumping Minds. It's exciting for me to be talking at such an event. Being a developer myself, I understand the importance of hackathons. So it's amazing that you guys are doing this. So the topic that I'm going to cover is art of scaling applications, and it's something that I have kind of learned over my experience so far, and something that we are employing very heavily at Jumping Minds as well. So that's what I'm covering today. If you would let, I will just go on and start.
Yes, sir. Please take over, sir.
Perfect. So yeah, I'm going to talk about art of scaling applications today, and how do you go from 0 to 50 million concurrent user scale. So that's the topic. Cool. Just thought I will introduce myself before I start. So I am the co-founder and CTO at Jumping Minds AI Labs. I've had around 8 years of product and consumer tech experience across early to mid-stage startups. The most recent one was Disney Plus Hotstar. And at Disney Plus Hotstar, I built IPL social chats feed for 50 million concurrent user support, which ended up saving multi-million dollars for Hotstar alone. Across my career journey, I have been a full-stack developer and engineering lead, and worked across multiple organizations after graduating from my college. I think that's pretty much about me. I will just quickly deep dive into what I'm going to cover today, and I will start with a basic introduction of Jumping Minds. So yeah, Jumping Minds, which rightly says "Chal baat karte hain," and as the speakers kind of rightly announced me as well, is about mental health, and mental health is something that is very important and relevant in this day and age. And that is where me and Ariba, my co-founder, who are both really good friends from 10 years, started up Jumping Minds together. And it started from something personal, right, where one of us was feeling really low one day, and Ariba kind of to talk to me and made me feel better. And we realized that there is such an inherent need for such platforms for you to go and openly talk about your issues and actually consult people who've gone through it, and not just therapists or experts for that matter, right? And that's what we started with Jumping Minds, where we're building a deep tech mental health and wellness ecosystem, enabling our users to talk to their community, to like-minded people in a safe, non-judgmental, and feel better in a safe, judgmental manner, with the goal of making them feel better instantaneously, right? We are already on a mission to spread 1 billion smiles across the country and globally, with a vision to become the first global mental health unicorn. And what we're trying to do with Jumping Minds is we've built a safe space for you to talk, engage, de-stress, and feel better from time to time, right? You will always have someone relatable to talk to. The space is very personalized to you. You can be real in yourself. There are no filters that are required here, like Instagram or any other applications. You can get inspired and inspired others through your life experiences, right? Which is the most important aspect of it. And proud to say that we've recently crossed 100,000 downloads in Jumping Minds, and are kind of growing really fast. So in that regard is when basically a need comes for scaling applications, right? So prior to Hotstar, I was basically building a socially engaging and immersive feed for our users at Hotstar. Any cricket fans here? Anyone who's watched a match on Disney Plus Hotstar? I'm sure a lot of developers, a lot of engineers watch cricket matches these days. So if you watch any live match on Hotstar's mobile app, this is basically the kind of experience that we had built there. I will just quickly play the video and let it kind of go on for some time. All right. I think some technical glitches. All right. So I built such an experience where it was very socially immersive for the users, where they can kind of engage, play games, comment when required, react to various emoticons. So to be able to build such an experience in real time, right, was the real challenge. And this system was capable of handling 50 million concurrent users at scale, right? And Hotstar actually made a record by cracking 26.8 million concurrent users on the IPL final. And so imagine this, a system which has capability to push personalized messages or can just ask me at the end of the talk. I have kept some time for Q&As as well. Cool.
Yes,
So
sir.
there are very basic. Sorry, yeah, but
Yes, sir. We'll take up the questions at the end, sir.
perfect. Perfect. Sounds good. So just will cover very quickly. So these 10 important aspects, if you can basically kind of cover and fix, right, you would have actually scaled your application to a very high scale. So first comes this database modeling and indexing, right? When you're designing an application, the most important aspect of it is what are your API entities and what will your database models look like, right? Because if you've really understood the use case, the application, right, of what you're trying to build and how are users going to access this information, right? And if you decide how it's going to be stored, it just makes your application really scalable and set up for success, because the heart of what you're going to build is going to be models of the database. And if you are able to index the database properly, right, which basically impacts and improves the performance of your queries, it kind of takes your application scales really high, right? Once you've added database modeling and indexing properly, how do you know how your system is performing, right? It's by adding performance matrix and monitoring them through live real-time dashboards. This helps you not just debug issues and detect flaws, but also to be able to just monitor your production environment so as to whether it is actually scaling up as expected or not, right? There are various resources which can become bottlenecks. It could be CPU, it could be memory, it could be IO, or it could just be the network on your instance. The idea for you to basically is identify which of these is causing the bottleneck and then go out and fix it, right? The third one basically would be query optimization, right? Often what we end up doing is, to be able to build our applications fast, right, we often take these decisions which are not the best in terms of our future or in terms of scalability, right? And what happens is our queries become very inefficient, right? Because the data that you are trying to access is now coming from 4 or multiple joins across tables, or is not properly indexed or not properly modeled, right? So the queries become really slow. For you to be able to identify what are slow queries, which ones are slow, and where you're doing too many queries, right, you can actually optimize your queries and improve the performance as well, right? The fourth one being data aggregation and caching, right? So often what will happen in your backend application is that you will have a lot of data which never really changes or does not change with a high frequency, right? For all of such data, caching becomes a very important aspect, because caching just takes away entire performance load on the system by just serving it through cache, which are anyway fast access memory, right? Data aggregation, on the other hand, is also an efficient tool where if let's say, for example, you are serving a user profile and you want statistics for the user from across multiple tables, it may make sense for you to aggregate that data once pre-computed into your profile or into your user model, and helps in serving the data when demanded, right? So data aggregation can actually help you aggregate the data together for use case basis, right? Covering on to the next one, lazy loading of data and using optimizations. So it's often recommended that you don't prefetch the data, or you don't load the data instantaneously, and actually load it when it is required or when it is being asked upon, right? And that prevents basically deferring all of these loads, right? In case of cancelled requests, in case of slow queries, it makes the system efficient because you're not really fetching data in advance, right? You're basically waiting for the data to be requested, and that is when you fetch it from the databases as well. The next one being code optimization, reduce queries and avoiding queries in loops. Very important aspect, right? When we are building an application, and this is something that we have observed at Jumping Minds as well, right? Where when you're writing a lot of code, churning out a lot of features on top of each other, you end up writing a lot of code and your code becomes messy, not optimized, it has redundancies and it has bottlenecks, right? There are some queries where you're basically just looping over it, right? And instead of querying in loops, you can always go and use bulk queries. You can reduce your queries, or you can optimize the code to be performant and more efficient, right? I think beyond this, so all of these are something that are very basic, right? Something that is well known in the industry. There are other aspects of it which are more harder to crack and actually, not that easily well versed with. So they are optimizing kernel machine, right? So every backend application is going to run on a backend server, right? And if you can make the most out of that hardware, the backend server and its software, you would have made the most out of the application as well, right? So if you can optimize any kernel parameters, any hardware parameters like file descriptors, shared memory, that actually helps you bring more out of a single instance, right? And again, helps you get more scale from your existing set of resources, right? Coming on to the next one. The next one basically covers vertical scaling versus horizontal scaling, right? So let me just take a minute to explain you what does it really mean, right? So when you're building an application, and let's say if you're deploying an application into one backend server, if you have the ability to multiply backend servers, that would be horizontal scaling, where you're replicating instances, right? But if you're able to extract more out of a given single server, that would mean vertical scaling, where you're able to take more out of a single instance or single resource. So if you're able to get more and more vertical scaling, your horizontal scaling actually gives you that much more impact, right? Because imagine if a backend server can handle 100,000 scale, if you were to multiply it, it would just multiply numbers of 100,000. But if you've extracted more out of your backend server up to, let's say, 150,000 requests, then each of your server will be giving you more and more traffic, right? So vertical scaling actually has an advantage in scaling the applications as compared to horizontal scaling, right? I have one more point which says manual scaling versus auto scaling, right? So this is one of the very important aspects which is required to scale applications, right? And I'll tell you a scenario. Imagine at Hotstar, what we used to see a lot of peak scales, right? We just sent a notification to 100 million users and a lot of users would come rushing into the application. And backend services needed to be automatically scaled to the capacity to handle that request, right? And in that situations, manual scaling becomes very erroneous and impacts the user experience. In those situations, having auto scaling rules, having auto scaling capabilities to your architecture or infrastructure becomes very important, right? And that is something what we very efficiently employ at Jumping Minds as well, where one of the single instances is vertically scaled. And also we have auto scaling systems. Whenever the traffic increases, the system auto scales, to handle the capabilities. So all of these 9 are basically something that you as a developer can very easily do, right? But when it comes to the 10th one, it becomes very difficult, and I'll tell you why. So at Hotstar, when we were building our application to handle 50 million concurrency, it was not an easy journey, to be honest, right? I will tell you, it was very difficult. So what we had to do was we used to continuously load test our applications under stress situations, under happy path situations, simulating the production traffic to know how will our system perform when given under stress, right? And what performance testing actually enables you to do is it enables you to stress test your application and actually find out these nooks and corners which will break when put under stress. And what that enables you to do is, if you're able to fix these flaws, these bottlenecks, then your service actually scales when even high traffic comes in, right? So hence actually leading your service to actually scale really high. And if you just do all of these 10 aspects of it, I'm sure you can build applications which go up to millions of scale, right? And this is something that we employed at Jumping Minds as well, right? So at Jumping Minds, like I told you, we were building a 24/7 instant secure platform And to be able to serve such a platform, we needed a backend application which is not just available throughout 24/7, but is also performant, right? And it's actually, I would say, luckily or unluckily, we got multiple awards back in November of last year, where Google Play also recognized our app as best hidden gem app of the year. And by a lot of this organic love, we were getting a lot of traffic. And if you could look at the graph on the right side, right, our performance is actually degraded multifold because of this increase in traffic, right? And we were all scratching our heads as to how can we make the service more performant, the product better for users to use. And by employing all of these 10 aspects that I covered today, we were able to take our application performance and improve it 10x, from 10 seconds up to 100 milliseconds. And this is something that we were able to do in a matter of just 1 week of our operation. And something that makes me really proud, that a very small and young tech team at Jumping Minds as well was able to get this massive impact just by a matter of a week, and by employing things that are not so common across the industry, right? So yeah, I think that's pretty much about what I wanted to cover today. If any of you have any questions about what I covered, or what any questions that are coming to your mind, you can talk to me about it now, or actually reach out to me and we can discuss it later. Just a shameless plug is what I would want to add, is that we are actively hiring across tech and product for mobile backend and web roles, both part-time and full-time. So if any of you or any of your friends are interested, do refer them to us. Yeah, I think I would just take a pause here and wait for any questions if there are.
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir. We do have a question. So, like any startup in its initial phases always, focuses on MVP. So rather than scaling, but once MVP is done, how can one think of, scaling the product?
So to be honest, I am of the, I'm sort of old school in this regard. So I will give you two sets of answer. What I prefer, to be honest, doing is that for you to build a startup, you can never hack it and then, get to a point of building an MVP and then go, okay, now we will scale an application. It has to, a product is like a plant, nurtured properly and, thought about it on every step of the way and built accordingly, right? So for example, for Jumping Minds, what we did was we added performance monitoring very early into our stages, right? So we were aware of all the bottlenecks as we were growing up. And it was not that one day we got realized that, okay, our performance is not up to the mark, right? Invest into thought process, into architecture, into giving up legacy code, right? Or let's say accounting for tech debt that you have encountered while building the MVP, right? So it has to be a journey across the way and not one point in time. However, if you've actually built an MVP, right, and are at a point where you have to scale an application, right, you can go through all of the scenarios that we told you, right? And basically just keep checking out each other, just crossing out one after the other. And if you've crossed all 10 out of those, you would have achieved an application which scales really well, right? So even if you're stuck at a point where you're having an MVP and you're seeing a lot of growth, right? Just go and look at your application, their use cases, their bottlenecks, and try and keep improving the efficiency and performance one by one. And you will actually get to a scaled application as well. For any detailed question or specific questions, you can always ping me on LinkedIn and we can actually discuss architecturally as well how can your application scale in case if it is required.
Okay, sir. So we have one more question. Like, can you comment on the various engineering roles in like scaling up?
All right. Very good question.
Like data engineers,
right. I think very good question. So see, as a company grows from an early stage to like really high scale like Hotstar, there are several roles that become very important in scaling an application. For example, a developer who's building the features has to always think about production and also always think about scale, right? So that role is very important. A tester or a QA, automated QA or automation expert, is also very important because you can't really manually test applications at scale, right? Like I told you, so we were able to simulate a 25 million concurrent users load test at Hotstar, right? So to be able to do something like this, you need really automation experts who can help you scale an application and test it before it goes live. You really need strong architects, right? People who can think about the architecture, look at 1,000 feet view eye and be able to design an application well so that it can actually scale, right? And also, like you said, data experts who can help manage security and data aspects of scaling an application, right? because when an application scales, you are dealing on humongous data, and it actually impacts the performance of the API as well. It slows it down. So to be able to choose the right databases, to be able to choose right processes, right sharding, archiving, practices, and just using best standard practices across the industry is something that is recommended. So all of these roles become very important at scale: a developer, an automation expert, an architect, a data expert, and actually a security expert, and even an engineering manager for that matter, right? An engineering manager becomes an important role for them to see it all together and connect every dot basically. Yeah, that's basically what my answer would.
And sir, what about some non-engineering roles? Like, how can they
Okay, so
help us?
actually that's also so product manager, it becomes very important aspect of it. Somebody who's actually understanding that what we are building is actually working out or not. And it's very easy to build a feature and test it, but how do you know whether it's performing or working well at scale or not, right? Because when 100 million users are using your product every day, you can't even get analytics so easily, right? So a product manager also becomes an important role. There are more, obviously, designer becomes a very important role because you have to design the right product, the right UI UX as well.
Okay, sir. So we have a question related to some mental health.
Okay.
So like
Please go ahead.
how important do you think are support groups in like uplifting the someone's mental health?
Actually, very good question, and something that I will answer, from 2 points of view. There is a personal angle to it, and there is a professional angle to it, given that we are building a mental health startup, right? So personally, I feel that, there is nothing better than support groups, to be honest. And this is something that is very prevalent in the West ecosystem of the world, right? In
Yes, sir,
US,
right.
in America, in South America, right? And why do the Americans kind of use support groups is there is a camaraderie, right? There is a community about, there's a feeling of belongingness to your community. If there are 5 more people who are always there for you when you need it, right? Who have gone through similar issues or similar challenges as per you, can actually offer you sound advice. Even if not sound advice, they can actually empathize with you and actually understand what you're going through. Becomes pivotal in those situations when you're feeling low. And this is something I personally felt as well, right through COVID, it was getting very difficult for developers to focus, right? Because everybody wanted to do so much, right? And we at home, there was no gap between work and personal life anymore. And that's why stress increased. And I have seen it in me and my peers as well. And my peers or support group, my peers became very important, right? So at Hotstar, we were actually doing this Chai Pe Charcha session. Actually, this is something that I was used to personally run, and this is something we do at Jumping Minds as well, where we often connect as a team from time to time and just discuss what's going in our lives and not work. It becomes very important for you to go to your support groups and to talk to them, right, to feel better. Professionally, I would say the only one concern I basically see in mental health support groups is safety and security. At times there is a lot of stigma. At times I'm not comfortable sharing my stuff out. And in those situations, if a group can anonymously kind of come together and talk about it, that would make it very powerful. But it becomes a bit difficult for people to come out in the open and actually say out what's going in their mind. And under such situations, right, a lot of these products, especially like Jumping Minds and other products, which are coming up with anonymous ways of getting connected to people in your groups, right? For example, Jumping Minds is launching clubs soon, right? I have personally gone through bad dreams issues, right? So imagine if I, as a kid, could have gone and joined a bad dreams club, right? Where 10 of my peers are actually there to support each other out, right? Something like that would be really magical and really powerful for a community, right? And I actually feel that, support groups as a concept is something that is powerful if utilized and, implemented really well. It can actually create an impact in the society as well.
Yes, sir. I totally agree with this. And sir, one more question I would like to ask is, like sometimes it becomes necessary for someone to seek professional help from a mental health expert. So,
Right.
like, are you planning to, collaborate with some professionals in future? Like right now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, sir, that's it.
Very good question, actually. Something that is very relevant to Jumping Minds. And I'll tell you one thing. So when we started building Jumping Minds, there was only one thing that was on my mind and Ariva's mind was that we will try and build a safe platform, right? if we have been successful in building a safe platform, we would have actually achieved a mental health space for people to come and talk to, right? And in that regard, it actually becomes very important where, Jumping Minds offers you friends therapy, right? And this is something that is not available anywhere in the world other than your actual friends, right? And to be honest, you would all relate with me when I say that whenever you feel low, you always have that one friend you will go and talk to, right? Who will make you feel better. And that's what we are giving here at Jumping Minds. However, we do not disregard the importance and requirement of professional expert therapy, right? That is something that is very important, and there is no other alternative for that. So what we're trying to do at Jumping Minds is we're trying to add a lot of experts to the platform. There will be counseling experts, there will be academic experts, there will be professional experts, there will be sexual experts, there will be experts which are talking about queer issues, female issues, issues which are not commonly talked about in the community, and people don't have someone to go and talk to. So that is our aspect of how we will be launching expert support within Jumping Minds as well. So that's something that you can look forward to soon.
Okay, sir.
If that answers.
I guess that those are all the questions we had. Would you
Perfect.
give some advice to our hackers with who are watching?
So I think actually really good, really good thing that you asked me. So as a hacker myself, who's been in a lot of such hackathons, I would just give one advice: don't solve for a perfect version. Solve for a version that you can kind of deliver and demo upon, because it's very important for a person to see what you've thought of in action, right? Sorry, it does not matter if it's an MVP. It does not matter if it's half built, right? Focus on building a product that is demoable in a hackathon, because people can always understand your vision and understand how you take it further. Right? But if you've not made it work, they cannot actually understand how would it look in reality, right? So just focus on solving a demoable product is what I would suggest. Yeah, I hope that it was personal to us. However, what we realized tech or health tech, to be honest, right? What COVID has kind of brought upon us and shown us is that this is something that is also a daily life necessity, right? It's equal to water, food, air for that matter. Because if I don't feel good, I will not feel like doing anything in life, to be honest. Right? So what's the point of everything else, right? So mental health becomes very important, and it's actually being recognized as such by users, by investors, by industry experts, all alike. And to be honest, right, I am actually a Gen Y. Gen Z is, I think, kind of pushing the limits and pushing the bar in this regard, where they're actually teaching us how to have aspirational lives, right? And everybody now aspires to have a better life. Why would I not want to feel happy in my life, right? So if that is kind of the future that is upon us, I would encourage every college student to actually focus on how can they impact mental health, because it's going to be in the market a lot for the next 5 to 10 years, definitely. And that's what me and Ariba are also kind of soul-heartedly working upon. So I think we totally believe that.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I think.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I hope I was able to make an impact and actually help a few folks.
Surely, sir.
Yes, sir. It was very inspirational. We were delighted to have you here, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.